Hello and welcome to Tacks. It's the only show on TV that gives you 100% news and 0% opinion. My name is Zakka Jacob. Let's get down to Tacks. Here are the headlines. Iran takes revenge for the killing of its top general, fires more than a dozen ballistic missiles at 2 Iraqi military bases housing American troops. Deepika Padukone's surprise JNU visit sparks a big debate. Many from the film fraternity applaud her, but some BJP members call for boycotting her film, Shapak. Violence and arson in West Bengal during the left-called Bharat Bandh. Police vehicles are burned. Crude bombs are found on railway tracks. And a Ukrainian airliner crashes shortly after takeoff from the Tehran airport, killing all 176 people on board. Airlines reroute to avoid Iranian airspace. Nearly a week after the killing of its top general, Iran today took revenge on the US, but so far there is no confirmation of any American casualty. Were targeted by Iran. The first happens to be the Al-Assad air base. It's located in a desert about 160 kilometers from Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. It's one of the biggest bases for American troops in that country. It houses about 1,500 American as well as coalition troops. The facilities there are very impressive. It's got movie theaters, it's got restaurants, swimming pools. It's almost like a mini city. The second base that Iran struck early this morning is in Erbil. It houses about 3,600 personnel, not just American, but military personnel from 13 different coalition countries are housed in that base in Erbil. It's primarily used for training local forces. We're expecting a press conference by Donald Trump within the next few minutes. Meanwhile, he put out one tweet. If you look at that tweet or the tweet that was put out by the Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif in the immediate aftermath of the strikes, it indicates that de-escalation is the way forward. And here's why. An all-out war between Iran and the United States is not beneficial for either country. As far as Trump is concerned, he already has the upper hand. He's killed the second most powerful man in Iran. He can walk away trumps on this one. He's also facing a tough re-election at the end of this year. He has campaigned on the promise to keep the US from engaging in what he called endless wars, so he has no incentive in starting another one. It also takes attention away, as far as Trump is concerned, from this entire impeachment saga that's been haunting him and his presidency since at least September, when that call with Ukraine first came to light. As far as Iran is concerned, de-escalation suits them as well. Despite what the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei said today, it is simply the only way forward for Iran because the country is strangled economically by US-imposed sanctions and has been for the better part of almost 2 years now. Iran's economy is in dire straits. It is simply no match militarily for the United States, so it can ill afford to go into a direct confrontation or any kind of war with the United States. So clearly, it is de-escalation that suits both sides. But let's get more perspective on this. Let's try and understand why both sides, first the attack that took out General Soleimani and now Iran's retaliatory strikes. Everybody thinks that we're on the brink of World War III, but that might not quite be the case. CNN's Arwa Damon is joining us from Baghdad. She's in fact the only reporter on Indian TV right now who's reporting from the very epicenter of this clash. Just to get us a sense, we put out Trump's tweet, we put out the Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif's tweet, both of which seem to indicate that both sides are more likely to de-escalate, or are we likely to see some ratcheting up of the rhetoric once this press conference gets underway? Many thanks for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. She's the only reporter from Baghdad on Indian TV right now, giving us the first-hand perspective of what's happening between US and Iran. Meanwhile, India is also closely watching the developments between Tehran and Washington. There's a lot at stake for India. Most importantly and most immediately, global crude oil prices. They're already up over 4% because of this turmoil just in the last week or so. India imports about 70% of its crude oil. A large portion of it comes from the Middle East, comes from the Gulf. So a spike in crude oil prices means that we'll have to pay more for fuel, not just at the pump, but also India's import bill goes up. High crude oil prices will also push up inflation So household budgets will go for a toss because this, of course, has inflationary pressures as well. Fuel, in that sense, fuel price increase is a big inflation price point. Meanwhile, international flights could also potentially become more expensive and longer in duration because many of them might have to avoid flying over Iran. So westward bound flights are going to take a bit of a toll there. There are about 15 to 17,000 Indians who are living and working in Iraq right now, many of them in the construction business. If things become worse than what they are already, many of them might have to come back. And in the wider region, there are more than 7 million Indian expatriates in the Middle East. There could potentially be, if there's full-blown war between the US and Iran, they could have to come back, much like they did in the first Gulf War and the second Gulf War. The $40 billion remittance that's sent from Indians in the Middle East, as states like Kerala, for example, are hugely dependent on that remittance money. That remittance money could also be badly affected if tensions were to escalate further. All right, more domestic news now, and it's been 3 days since the mob attack inside the JNU campus, which left 34 students and professors injured. But the police have not even identified the attackers, let alone made any arrests.
Instead, the Delhi police has put up ads in newspapers asking people to come forward and share evidence in connection with what happened in JNU on the 5th of January. The police are calling the violent episode a clash between two groups of students on campus.
5 तारीख के जो क्लैशेस रहे हैं उसके बाद यूनिवर्सिटी प्रीमाइस के अंदर या बाहर कहीं से भी किसी तरीके की कोई अनटूवर्ड इंसिडेंट रिपोर्टेड नहीं है.
Thousands of students.
As calls grow for the resignation of the JNU Vice Chancellor, he tries to play it down.
We had a detailed discussion on the situation in JNU campus, and we explained how we are making efforts to bring normalcy in the university.
But the JNU Teachers Association is holding the administration and police responsible for what happened on Sunday.
It's a closed campus. If the goons can enter this closed campus, it cannot be without the help of the administration and the security of the JNU.
In fact, the first information report filed by the Delhi police admits that cops were present on campus and witness to the violence. The FIR says the officers were informed of a violent clash at the Periyar hostel at around 3:45 p.m. and they rushed there. They saw 40 to 50 unknown masked miscreants with sticks beating up students and damaging property. The FIR says that on seeing the police team, the group of miscreants ran away. The FIR goes on to say that they were informed of the mob attack at the Sabarmati hostel around 7 p.m. On reaching the hostel, the police saw 50 to 60 miscreants with sticks going on the rampage. The FIR says that despite being warned over the public address system, they continued to cause damage and then ran away.
The FIR also says that the police got a call from JNU seeking assistance to control the situation at 3:45 in the afternoon on Sunday.
This is completely contradictory to what the Delhi police have maintained so far.
दिल्ली पुलिस को अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 7:45 के आसपास JNU एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से एक रिक्वेस्ट की गई और उसके बाद दिल्ली पुलिस यूनिवर्सिटी में गई और फ्लैग मार्च किया और सिचुएशन को अंडर कंट्रोल किया.
But the Special Commissioner of Delhi Police claimed that the violence had ended by 7:45 p.m.
So are you saying that the violence had ended by 7:45 p.m.?
Yes, when the police reached, we did not find anybody except a couple of injured students who were shifted in the ambulance to the hospital.
But at 8:45 p.m., the JNU registrar released this statement. There is a law and order situation in the JNU campus. Masked miscreants armed with sticks are roaming around, damaging property and attacking people.
I have been brutally attacked by people who were masked.
At around the same time, JNU Students' Union President Oishe Ghosh was bleeding profusely from the head, and the violence on campus was at its peak. The Delhi police was busy filing 2 FIRs 4 minutes apart on incidents of vandalism that had happened before Sunday. But their FIR on the violence on Sunday does not identify or name any of the perpetrators.
Even within that, there are multiple sort of contradictions and contradictory claims by the Delhi police on what exactly happened in JNU. What is the sequence of events that happened on the 5th of January? The Special Commissioner, you heard from him, R.S. Krishnaiah of the Delhi police a moment ago, he told CNN News 18 yesterday that only one PCR call was received, and that too at 7 p.m. The Deputy Commissioner of Police for that region, southwest part of Delhi, he said that one PCR call was received at 5 p.m, another one was received at 7 p.m. The Delhi Police FIR, though, says that the first PCR call was received at 3:45 p.m, and then there were other calls after 7 p.m. The Delhi Police sources, meanwhile, have told CNN News 18 that in all, from about 3:45 till late at night on the 5th of January, 125 PCR calls were received, and yet we all saw the violence and the aftermath of it. Now, all of this is leading to far more questions than answers for who exactly was responsible for that violence and why did things get as bad as they did before the Delhi police showed up and acted. The administration claims that it called the cops. This is from the JNU admin side. They are saying that they called the police at 4:30 p.m. when the violence started. The Delhi police says the written permission to enter JNU was only provided at 7:45 p.m. So why was there this more than 3-hour delay between 4:30 and 7:45? Now, 46 PCR calls were made between 4 and 5 p.m. and yet the police, despite those 46 PCR calls, waited for written permission from the JNU authorities to enter the campus. But why the kid gloves when the police had to enter Jamia last month without any permission, written or otherwise, and then fire tear gas and attack students? The masked attackers inside JNU, they ran riot for several hours, all the way perhaps from 4 o'clock in the evening till at least 7:45, 8 o'clock in the evening. They ran riot inside the campus. The FIR filed by the Delhi police says its officers were on campus. Remember, they were there at the admin block, and this is by a High Court order. The FIR also says that some of these police personnel saw these attackers, these masked attackers. Why did they simply just stand by and watch as these armed, masked attackers not just attacked the students, but also left in the space of those 3 or 4 hours? Now the police seem to be throwing the JNU Vice-Chancellor under the bus. CNN News 18 has managed to access the fact-finding committee's report. This was the fact-finding committee under Shalini Singh, a senior police officer. The preliminary report seems to suggest that the VC was the one to be blamed for inaction. The report says the VC sent them a message at 6:45 p.m. The VC contradicts that claim, saying that the JNU admin had alerted the police even before that. Anyway, the police's claim is that 6:45 was when the VC sent a message saying that the situation is tense, after which, according to the police, according to this fact-finding report, the VC's phone was unreachable. The police claim that the violence happened essentially between 7 and 7:30 in the evening, but the VC gave the written permission to intervene only at 7:45 p.m. and by which time, according to this report, the mob had already dispersed. Other stories now. In normal life was affected in several cities today because of the nationwide trade union strike.
Public transport services were off the roads due to the strike.
There are hardly any vehicles on the road. Mostly the vehicles that are plying are private vehicles, including four-wheelers and two-wheelers. The state-run KSRTC buses is also not running their services today.
Banking operations also took a hit as most PSU bank branches remained shut.
People from other sectors such as the banking sector and various other sectors, they are protesting against the Modi government's policies and other issues as well.
Today the protest against the policy, which is against the labor. Protesting against the utterly destructive and anti-national policies of the Modi government, which is carrying the entire country to disaster.
Nearly 25 crore people took part in the All India strike, but the BJP tried to play it down.
सब लोग जानते हैं कि देश के प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी इस देश के इकोनॉमी को मजबूत करने में लगे हैं। वो पूरी तरह से $5 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी बनाने में लगे हैं।
This is the fourth nationwide strike called by 10 central trade unions since the Modi government came to power in 2014.
Meanwhile, trade union workers went on a rampage in West Bengal's Malda district, and what is shocking is that cops were caught on camera destroying private cars.
Rioters targeted police personnel guarding a national highway blocked by trade union workers. But the protest took a violent turn after rioters attacked cops with blunt objects and stones. More anti-riot cops were pumped in as the situation went out of hand. A sea of rioters ran amok as cops chased them with batons and lobbed tear gas shells. The entire showdown took place in an area that houses schools and hospitals. Several protesters who've been arrested for arson and vandalism have blamed police for the violence. Trade union workers released a video in which the local police can be seen setting vehicles on fire. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee condemned the violence, promising strict action against hooligans.
A high-powered panel has given the go-ahead for 150 private trains. These trains will ply on 100 different routes across the country very soon. The routes will include Mumbai to Delhi as well as Howrah to Delhi. Now, these 150 new private trains will essentially compete with the Rajdhani. These new trains are needed because there is huge unmet demand. Nearly 15% passengers are waitlisted, while the reserve passenger growth is under 5%. Deepika Padukone's surprise visit to JNU has deeply divided the country. It's divided Bollywood, her industry, and even social media. Images of Deepika Padukone standing silently with attacked JNU students like Aishi Ghosh immediately went viral. The move drew admiration from many in the film fraternity. Some even thought it was a bold move for a star promoting her first film as a producer. But at the same time, there were lots of calls for boycotting Deepika's upcoming movie Chapak, including those made by BJP members. But the party itself claims that Deepika is free to do what she wants, but not without taking a dig at the actor.
ये देश तो लोकतांत्रिक देश है, इसमें किसी पे रोक तो है नहीं। अब कोई फिल्म की प्रमोशन के लिए जाता है, कोई फिल्म के प्रमोशन के लिए एक इवेंट तैयार करता है, तो उस पे हमें कोई आपत्ति नहीं, किसी को कोई एतराज क्या हो सकता है।
But the opposition questioned the BJP over the boycott calls.
मैं नहीं समझता हूँ JNU के स्टूडेंट्स के मामलों में अगर पूरे देश भर में आंदोलन हो रहा है, देश भर के सभी लोग समर्थन में आ रहे हैं, तो दीपिका पादुकोण भी जाके अपनी समर्थन देती है, कुछ कहती है, तो गलत क्या है इसमें?
ये तो बीजेपी की ओछी मानसिकता है। कोई किसी आंदोलन को सपोर्ट करने के लिए, समर्थन करने के लिए स्वतंत्र है, कहीं भी किसी के समर्थन में जा सकता है। हिंदुस्तान में कोई इमरजेंसी थोड़ी लगी है।
Deepika Padukone's visit to JNU is an unusually proactive show of support for a Bollywood A-lister, especially since other major stars have avoided taking a stand on the JNU attack, as well as the ongoing protests against the amended citizenship law. Now, while Deepika Padukone has come out in open support of the students in JNU, other Bollywood celebrities today joined netas on stage in Mumbai in a show of support for the citizenship law. Actors Juhi Chawla and Dilip Tail were seen at the event organized by the BJP, which was held at Shivaji Park in Mumbai. The SIT crime branch has arrested 2 more people in connection with the Selampur violence that ensued last month following the anti-CAA protest. 5 people had been arrested by the SIT on Monday. On the 17th of December last year, protesters had allegedly clashed with the police and damaged 3 public buses during the violence. In a surprising turn of events in the Muzaffarpur shelter home case, the CBI today told the Supreme Court that there is no evidence of murder and that the 35 girls who were suspected to be dead are actually alive. The CBI said that the bones which were recovered from the shelter home were actually from adults and not from children.
An overcast sky with light showers thrust Delhi into darkness. These were the visuals recorded at 9 in the morning. A steady line of cars carefully drove through the watery roads with their headlights on. The sun remained behind the clouds for most part of the day. Waterlogged roads led to traffic congestion in various parts of the national capital.
बसों को दिक्कत है, मैं तकरीबन आधे घंटे से ज़्यादा हो गया खड़ा, मुझे बस का वेट कर रहा हूँ, बस भी नहीं आया.
The intense cold wave that plagued Delhi 2 weeks ago is likely to make a comeback. The minimum temperature is likely to drop by several notches now.
उम्मीद यही लगाई जा रही है कि तापमान बारिश के बाद कुछ कम हो सकता है, क्योंकि पहाड़ी इलाकों में स्नोफॉल की बात की जा रही है, तो वो हवाएं जब दिल्ली पहुंचेंगी तो तापमान गिर सकता है, यानी कि एक बार फिर ठंड की वापसी हो सकती है.
Well, that's not all. Himachal Pradesh received record-breaking snowfall in the last couple of days. Take a look.
Heavy snowfall threw normal life out of gear in Shimla. Right from buildings to trees to roads, almost everything is covered in several inches of snow. The Himachal government is running out of machines to cut through thick layers of snow.
राजधानी शिमला की बात करें तो आज लोगों को काफ़ी दिक्कत भी जो है उसका सामना करना पड़ा. ये इस वक्त देख सकते हैं आप कि राज्य सचिवालय के साथ गुजरने वाला मार्ग है जो फिलहाल जो है स्लिपरी हो गया है. यहाँ पर आवाजाही जो है वो धीमी हो गई है.
Streets remained empty as residents remained confined to their homes. But tourists visiting Shimla braved freezing temperatures to enjoy the snowfall.
बहुत अच्छा लगा यहाँ घूम के, बर्फ का पूरा मजा लिया हमने. स्नोफॉल बहुत अच्छी लगी.
While Manali has turned into a beautiful winter wonderland, it is facing a lot of problems on ground. Communication lines are affected, major drinking water sources have frozen, and as a result, residents are struggling to find water.
Let's take a look now at some of the devastating wildfires in all of history. Number one on that list is the 2018 California bushfires, which claimed 3 lives and destroyed 2 million acres of land. Number two on that list is the 2019 Amazon rainforest fire, which burned through the equivalent of something like 8 million football pitches because of deforestation. And number three is the 2019 Siberian fresh fires, which were destroyed. Let's in fact now move on here on Brass Tacks, go live to the White House, where US President Donald Trump is speaking to the press. First reaction after the Iran retaliatory
nuclear weapon. Good morning. I'm pleased to inform you the American people should be extremely grateful and happy. No Americans were harmed in last night's attack by the Iranian regime. We suffered no casualties. All of our soldiers are safe, and only minimal damage was sustained at our military bases. Our great American forces are prepared for anything. Iran appears to be standing down, which is a good thing for all parties concerned and a very good thing for the world. No American or Iraqi lives were lost because of the precautions taken, the dispersal of forces, and an early warning system that worked very well. I salute the incredible skill and courage of America's men and women in uniform. For far too long, all the way back to 1979 to be exact, nations have tolerated Iran's destructive and destabilizing behavior in the Middle East and beyond. Those days are over. Iran has been the leading sponsor of terrorism, and their pursuit of nuclear weapons threatens the civilized world. We will never let that happen. Last week, we took decisive action to stop a ruthless terrorist from threatening American lives. At my direction, the United States military eliminated the world's top terrorist, Qasem Soleimani. As the head of the Quds Force, Soleimani was personally responsible for some of the absolutely worst atrocities. He trained terrorist armies, including Hezbollah, launching terrorist strikes against civilian targets. He fueled bloody civil wars all across the region. He viciously wounded and murdered thousands of U.S. troops, including the planting of roadside bombs that maim and dismember their victims. Soleimani directed the recent attacks on U.S. personnel in Iraq that badly wounded 4 service members and killed 1 American, and he orchestrated the violent assault on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. In recent days, he was planning new attacks on American targets, but we stopped him. Soleimani's hands were drenched in both American and Iranian blood. He should have been terminated long ago. By removing Soleimani, we have sent a powerful message to terrorists. If you value your own life, you will not threaten the lives of our people. As we continue to evaluate options in response to Iranian aggression, the United States will immediately impose additional punishing economic sanctions on the Iranian regime. These powerful sanctions will remain until Iran changes its behavior. In recent months alone, Iran has seized ships in international waters, fired an unprovoked strike on Saudi Arabia, and shot down 2 U.S. drones. Iran's hostilities substantially increased after the foolish Iran nuclear deal was signed in 2013, and they were given $150 billion, not to mention $1.8 billion in cash. Instead of saying thank you to the United States, they chanted death to America. In fact, they chanted death to America the day the agreement was signed. Then Iran went on a terror spree, funded by the money from the deal, and created hell in Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and Iraq. The missiles fired last night at us and our allies were paid for with the funds made available by the last administration. The regime also greatly tightened the reins on their own country, even recently killing 1,500 people at the many protests that are taking place all throughout Iran. The very defective JCPOA expires shortly anyway and gives Iran a clear and quick path to nuclear breakout. Iran must abandon its nuclear ambitions and end its support for terrorism. The time has come for the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Russia, and China to recognize this reality. They must now break away from the remnants of the Iran deal, or JCPOA. And we must all work together toward making a deal with Iran that makes the world a safer and more peaceful place. We must also make a deal that allows Iran to thrive and prosper and take advantage of its enormous untapped potential. Iran can be a great country. Peace and stability cannot prevail in the Middle East as long as Iran continues to foment violence, unrest, hatred, and war. The civilized world must send a clear and unified message to the Iranian regime. Your campaign of terror, murder, mayhem will not be tolerated any longer. It will not be allowed to go forward. Today, I am going to ask NATO to become much more involved in the Middle East process. Over the last 3 years, under my leadership, our economy is stronger than ever before, and America has achieved energy independence. These historic accomplishments change our strategic priorities. These are accomplishments that nobody thought were possible. And options in the Middle East became available. We are now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas anywhere in the world. We are independent, and we do not need Middle East oil. The American military has been completely rebuilt under my administration at a cost of $2.5 trillion. U.S. armed forces are stronger than ever before. Our missiles are big, powerful, accurate, lethal, and fast. Under construction are many hypersonic missiles. The fact that we have this great military and equipment, however, does not mean we have to use it. We do not want to use it. American strength, both military and economic, is the best deterrent. 3 months ago, after destroying 100% of ISIS and its territorial caliphate, we killed the savage leader of ISIS, al-Baghdadi, who was responsible for so much death, including the mass beheadings of Christians, Muslims, and all who stood in his way. He was a monster. Al-Baghdadi was trying again to rebuild the ISIS caliphate and failed. Tens of thousands of ISIS fighters have been killed or captured during my administration. ISIS is a natural enemy of Iran. The destruction of ISIS is good for Iran, and we should work together on this and other shared priorities. Finally, to the people and leaders of Iran, we want you to have a future, and a great future, one that you deserve, one of prosperity at home and harmony with the nations of the world. The United States is ready to embrace peace with all who seek it. I want to thank you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Said that there is a common enemy, there's a common interest in defeating ISIS. So he's appealed to the better sensibilities in Iran as well. This will really calm nerves, not just in the wider Middle East, it will calm the markets as well. So clearly, Donald Trump there indicating that he is standing down. He's not wanting to get into any further escalation, precisely because no American casualties were rendered in the retaliatory strikes, the missile strikes by Iran on 2 military bases inside Iraq. Now that, of course, was the big concern earlier this morning when those strikes took place at 2 military bases. Iran claimed right after those strikes that this was quote-unquote revenge for the killing of its top commander, General Soleimani. And as you heard from Trump a moment ago, the good news is that there is no American casualty, and that means the fears of any further escalation are much, much reduced. It fired more than a dozen ballistic missiles into 2 major air bases in Iraq. These 2 air bases house American troops who Iran has declared to be terrorists. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have said that the attack was in retaliation for the death of Qasem Soleimani, who was killed in a drone strike outside Baghdad airport on the orders of Donald Trump. Soon after the attack, a top Iranian official tweeted this image of the Iranian flag, countering Trump's tweet of the American flag after the strike that killed Soleimani. Iranian state television claimed that 80 American terrorists were killed in the strikes on the 2 bases, but the US says there were no casualties and the troops were given enough warning to reach shelters before the missiles struck. Trump too tweeted to say all is well and that the damage was being assessed. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei said that his country gave the US a slap on the face.
What is important is the presence that the corrupt presence of the United States in this region should come to an end.
But Iran's foreign minister tweeted to say that the missile strike was an act of self-defense and that the country did not seek escalation of war. A day before Iran's missile strike, US Defense Secretary said that they're looking to settle things diplomatically with Iran.
We are not looking to start a war with Iran, but we are prepared to finish one.
Either way, this is the most direct assault by Iran on the US since the seizing of the American embassy in Tehran in 1979, which led to the Islamic Revolution. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra will be heading to the city of Varanasi on the 10th of January. Once there, she will meet with students at the Banaras Hindu University and members of civil society. She is likely to speak to the students about the JNU and Jamia incidents. BJP Member of Parliament Swapan Das Gupta was at the Vishwa Bharati University in Bengal today to deliver a lecture on the Citizenship Amendment Act. When members of the SFI stalled the program, Das Gupta tweeted out to say that he was locked inside the university by a mob. West Bengal Governor Jagdeep Dhankar has also tweeted out to say that the law and order situation in Bengal is worsening.
Nawazuddin Siddiqui will star in the Hindi remake of critically acclaimed Tamil movie Otta Serappu Size 7.
Markets ended on a flat note today. The Sensex dropped about 50 points, while the Nifty dropped by about 27 points. Market sentiment continues to remain weak, with tensions in the Middle East escalating. Bharti Airtel, Yes Bank, TCS, Ultratech Cement and Bajaj Finance were the top gainers, while Eicher Motors, Coal India, IOC, L&T and ONGC led the losses. Ahead of the Union Budget on the 1st of February, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to meet with top economists of the country at the Niti Aayog. This comes 2 days after Prime Minister met with India's top business dealers to discuss the issues of job creation and economic growth. India has approved the funding of almost $774 million for a natural gas pipeline in the northeast. The pipeline is part of a national gas grid that's being built to span remote locations. The gas grid linking 8 states in a region bordering Bangladesh, Bhutan, China and Myanmar is expected to be complete by 2023. The Securities and Exchange Board of India may extend its March 31st, 2020 deadline for listed companies to separate the post of chairman and managing director by 1 or 2 years. The SEBI is currently in discussion with the Finance Ministry and Prime Minister's office on this issue.
Call Me By Your Name actor Timothy Chalamet is set to play Bob Dylan in an upcoming biopic. The Dylan movie will focus on the period when the American songwriter in 1965 traded his folksy sound and acoustic guitar for an amp and electronic guitar and completely changed his sound. The film will be directed and produced by Ford vs. Ferrari director James Mangold.